Stella from MMA on the way. I'm here today with
Jimmie
How are
Rivera.
you today?
Good, you?
I'm great. So let's just get started. So where did the nickname El Terror come from?
It was my first amateur MMA fight, and it was between my uncle and my boxing coach with the name, and my uncle picked. So
That's great. So at what age did you actually start training?
I was 8 years old.
You were 8, wow. So you were in the UFC since 2015. You have a professional record of 23-5. So I know in the last, few years, in the last, few days that you were in the UFC, you had some of your toughest opponents in the division. So you were against Aljamain Sterling, Pedro Munoz. I was actually just rewatching your last fight. So which one was your toughest opponent in that division right now?
Um, I think it had to be my toughest fight was Peter Yan. I think it was one of the toughest fights. I think they're all tough. There's not like one that separates the other. It's just what someone was better at or good at. But I got to go back. If I had to look at my UFC and if I had to pick the toughest fight, it was probably Peter Yan.
I could imagine. And he's still a problem in the division now, so I could imagine that fight. So you left UFC back in 2021, and then last year in June you made your bare knuckle fighting debut. So it ended in a draw, but if you could go back, what would you change about that fight?
If I could go back, I had him hurt, especially a couple times in that fight. I would have just took more advantage of it instead of being conservative about it. Besides that, though, it was fun to get back in and compete, and hopefully getting back in there soon to compete again one more time in bare knuckle.
That's great. So do you have a fight coming up in bare knuckle? I know you were teasing, another fight in December, so I was wondering about
Yes,
that.
I should. I have one coming up. I'm just not allowed to announce it. I'm waiting
Okay.
on them to announce it, but I have one coming up, so I'm looking forward to it. Um, yeah, sorry.
Okay, no, I'm excited to, wait for the news. So what's actually the difference between fighting? I know you're used to MMA, so you have 4-ounce gloves. So what's the difference between the 4-ounce gloves and just fighting, bare knuckles?
I think the biggest difference is just picking your shots, making sure you're not, you know, hitting like you hit the top of the head or something like that. And then the other thing, I think the biggest difference is the training. Like you're just doing boxing, which is, like when you're doing an MMA fight, you're doing boxing, you're doing kickboxing, you're doing MMA. So you're putting it all together. With this, you're just focusing on one aspect of martial arts, which is really cool and definitely a lot easier than doing everything else.
Yeah, I could definitely imagine. So you recently graduated from the police academy after going, 27 weeks of training, I believe. So first of all, congratulations, you're now a
They
police officer. So how was that whole experience like, just the police academy?
It's very different. Um, I think a lot of it, um, not everybody's made for it. That's for sure. You have
Right.
to have a certain mentality, and then you're dealing with a lot of stressors, a lot of things you have to understand, a lot of responsibility too, as well as an officer. Every thing you report to, you always have a gun on you. You know what I mean? So you have
Right.
to I have to keep that in mind that, this is something that you have to be honest and I think just a good person in general to be it. And sometimes,
Right.
unfortunately, you get some of those stories like making the news, which I don't think that these people have the best intentions, but then you have these other people that have really good intentions. So it kind of sucks that sometimes one bad apple ruins the bunch. But at the end of the day, I think it's really cool. I think you get to give back, you get to help people out. There's some calls. I mean, it's not always a bad call. Sometimes it's just something simple as, we do a birthday drive by and
Yeah.
like sirens and the
I'm
kids.
from Elmwood Park, so I actually see that all the time. So I'm super excited that you're part of this community.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I'm gonna have to find you one day to get a quick picture or something while you're while you're
No
working.
problem. I will all the community events I'll be at.
Okay, that's great.
95% of them.
So I wanted to ask you, so how was that whole experience? I know you had to shave your head. How was that? I know you're used to like the whole beard, the whole hair thing, so
The head wasn't bad.
it
It's finally
wasn't
coming
bad.
back, but my beard is coming back. I miss my beard a lot
I
Facial
would
hair is
too.
very
I don't
important.
have any, but I could imagine.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think just women and children, are the only people that's supposed to not have a beard. So we're lucky enough that Chief Felino, he lets us have beards, but at the same time, we pay monthly to have them, and he uses
Okay.
that money for stuff in the town. If a kid needs a present, a birthday,
Okay.
just anything for the community. So it's kind of cool. We're just basically we get to have a beard, but we give money back in a charity way.
Oh, that's good. So I actually graduated from tech. So I used to see everybody like I guess the police academy, they were out like 7 in the morning running. So was that your experience? I don't know what, but how was your
Yeah,
experience just training? Yeah.
yeah, it was tough. I mean, I think it got worse towards the end. I mean, so they call it PT, and you're
Okay.
basically in doing calisthenics, all that. And we had it all the way up until January. So the last month was on and off because some days were really, really cold,
I
so
get
it
it.
sucked, and some days were really nice. It wasn't that bad. So it was on and off. But I didn't mind it. I like working out, so it was not a big deal for me. Some people was. They weren't a fan of it. Me, I didn't mind it at all. I think it's good to be able to be in shape, and you know you have to serve people. You have to sometimes catch criminals, and if that person, you could just have one bad day, and that's all that criminal needs. So it's
Right.
important to be in shape.
That yeah, that's very important as a police officer. So one thing I did want to talk about, you are one of the founders of the Guardian program. So it's basically, well, I want you to explain, but it's basically a program that teaches jujitsu to police officers. So I just want you to go more in depth about that program.
So the Guardian program is myself, Chief Felino, who's the Elmwood Park Chief, and Ron Showman, who is one of the co-founders of Tiger Showman's. And what it is just giving officers um, a plan instead of having to utilize stuff on their belts. A
Okay.
lot of times there's scenarios they deal with where they don't really have to pull out a taser or OC spray if they just know what they're doing. And a lot of self-defense wise, jujitsu wise, and a
Mhm.
lot of it very basic stuff. It's not like sports jujitsu that you're gonna learn and go compete. It's very basic things and concepts that this way, when someone, some of these guys that go like not good 80%, 90% of the people that go to the police academy have very little bit of knowledge.
Right.
So, or they did something way back when they were younger. So, if it's not something you do all the time, it's a passion skill, something you have to do all the time for number of years. After you do it for like 15, 20 years, obviously it's never going to really leave you. But if you only did it for like a couple months or a year when you were a kid, it's not really a part of you yet.
Right.
So what we're doing is giving officers a plan. So this way, if they have to go hands on, but at the same time, helps out officers de-escalate stuff. It's a scary situation. I think one of the biggest things that public eye is that when you pull someone over, you don't know what that person's um what's the word I'm looking for? Not attempts, what that person is gonna do basically. You know,
Right.
over maybe the car's hit out. You don't know if that person is gonna be a really nice person. That person might have a gun, a weapon. There might be, someone in the trunk. There could be all different things. I mean, in Elmwood Park, we've heard different crazy things, but it happens in all the towns. It happens a little bit more close to us because we do border, Patterson, which is not the best of towns. So it's a big city, and it's a little rough of a city, and so it happens. So it's really important that when these officers are dealing with any really tense situation, that they can know if they have to go hands on, they can do it. They don't, and also it's a great thing because they don't resort to what's on their belt. They could
Right.
go hands on, and this way it's a lot safer. Not to mention the moves we're teaching are not moves that are going to hurt someone. It's just to control someone until a backup officer comes and can put the person under arrest.
Okay. I love the whole idea behind the program because it could definitely, help, like you said, de-escalate certain situations. So, I'm glad, we definitely need more of that.
Thank you.
So just I know you don't have too much time. Just to wrap up, is there anybody that you would like to shout out?
Yeah. I think Tiger Showman's is, I have a school in Short Hills that I still teach, which I love teaching. Chief
Okay.
Ligno, he's awesome, great boss, not to mention really good friend. And it's just cool to be a part of the Elmwood Park Police Department, be a part of the community and help them out. And I think one of the things I think that separates Elmwood Park from a lot of other towns is we go above and beyond. Like, there's
Yes.
not a lot of towns that go to all the school dismissals and arrivals. There's not a lot of towns that do that many community and policing events. And I think this year coming up, they're even looking to add a few more events. There's a lot of events that are going to come up, a lot of things they want to do. It's a little tough during the winter time,
Mhm.
but eventually, they'll get a hang of it. And I guarantee you there'll be at least a 1 to 2 events a month, every
That's
month.
great. That's
So
good to hear. Just one thing I did want to mention because as I was researching you, do you know what's one thing that you and Brandon Moreno have in common? I didn't know.
no, I don't
You
know at
guys
all.
both love Legos.
Okay, I think I saw something about that.
Yeah.
Yes. I it's like my meditation, and it kind of reminds me of I like putting stuff together, and it's something that reminds me of kind of childhood. And
That's
my
great.
cousin and I grew up just doing it. So now with my daughters are very young, but my one daughter uh will go down to the fireplace and put wood in, and she'll play with
Oh,
a couple of them. So I'm
that's
just waiting
so
for my
cool.
other daughter to get older a little bit because I don't want them to choke on it. Once they get
Yeah,
old enough, then we'll, maybe do like a little Lego table or something like that downstairs where they can play around with them.
that's so cool, and I'm glad that you enjoy that. So,
Yeah.
thank you so much for, taking the time out of your busy schedule just to, be able to talk with me real quick. I really appreciate it.
Anytime. Thank you. I appreciate it too.